Hey everybody, welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It is a fun, casual joint, and it's a Tuesday.
Columbus,
Ohio. That's Birmingham's fault.
Yeah.
Lots of travel logistics to work out.
Actually, it's Roger Goodell's fault.
I don't want to blame
He
anybody.
scheduled the combine.
Yeah.
He did. But there's also the Buckeye cruise going on. Jay-Z's getting ready to leave. I was out of town over the weekend, so we're juggling a lot. But we're getting in the show. We're not going to miss a week.
No.
We've got Justin Zwick.
You know, it's our first time actually being here on Appetizer Tuesday, too.
Well, yeah.
Which, I mean, we can go ahead and get into that before we introduce it. They all know who we are.
It means that the onion petals
yes, onion feathers
are
alive and ready to rock, and they're delicious.
I think they kept changing the name of this dip.
It went from petals
Puckins.
to feathers to what type of sauce? Puckin sauce?
Puckin sauce?
Plucking sauce is pretty good. I was just dipping into some of it.
it's
So,
good.
yeah, you get those on Tuesdays, what?
It's $3.
Today, $3. I used to saying on Tuesday, $3.
Appetizer Thursday. So come in later once you see this live on the podcast later on today. You can come grab it and have a couple beverages to celebrate February 28th, the greatest day in existence.
It is Austin's 40th birthday.
Oh,
That's
snap.
why he's saying that.
That makes sense. I was wondering what was so great about the 28th.
He's just so full of himself. Ridiculous. Self-aggrandizing.
What, the 40th?
40.
Have you thought about
Seems
what
like
your
a
life
lot.
would be like if you were born on the 29th?
You'd be 10.
It wasn't an option in 1983, fortunately. I get that.
Wow.
People ask that question a lot. Like, were you almost born on leap year? I was like, no, because there wasn't one.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Man, you're old.
Yeah,
Man.
so old. It's really not fun to think about.
I got that coming down the pike.
Yeah.
May.
Well, I think
The big 4-0.
since you're the only one here and Bob's not here, and Burnham was going to ask you a bunch of questions about your childhood.
All the traumatizing things that happened to me when your grandma passed or something.
See if he can make you feel
May as,
old.
well take a deep dive into that. How are your knees?
So, yeah, we'll get into that. And this is Burnham and Bill Landis, and I'm Austin Ward. As Jay-Z said, you know us. And we are leaving for the Combine tomorrow. So we'll have coverage of that all week in Indianapolis, Wednesday through Saturday with those Buckeyes. And there's 8 of them going. But obviously the headliner is C.J. Stroud. And I hate this time of year, Jay-Z. And I know that you do too.
Yeah.
Why?
As we were talking beforehand, it's like, all right, yeah, CJ's going. We're excited to see him this week. And then all of a sudden, Anthony Richards, like these Will Levis. All of a sudden, these quarterbacks who
Didn't do as much?
who aren't
Just say it. Just
aren't
say
that
it.
good. All of a sudden, and it happens every stinking year when you get to the combine, or somebody goes out and does something, or they make the kid for the Jets.
Zach Wilson.
Yes, all the throw, like wow.
that turned out?
Yeah, exactly. But every single year it happens, and I don't know if they just have really great agents or good marketing teams that are around these guys that just push them and push them and push them and make people think that, man, we might be missing something here. But it happens every year. And it's just ridiculous.
How
to
many
me.
years have the NFL been in existence?
You just had the
A lot.
How many years? How many years
Didn't
have?
check his watch.
How
He
many-
had it right on
How
top.
many years have NFL execs tried to talk themselves into taking bodies over production and brains?
I mean, I don't think that happened throughout the entire history of the
Is it?
NFL.
Is that a new
It
phenomenon?
feels like a relatively recent one. Now, I know that people will say, Tony Mandarich, or, there are busts, obviously, from the past, but that was sort of like a rarity in the 90s. Like, how did they make such a big mistake when you have college film to break down? I don't feel like that happened as frequently.
I blame Blake Bortles.
Broke the system.
Yeah. Or who was the super tall guy from Arizona State that the Broncos drafted?
Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes back though. I mean, that goes to Achilles Smith in the 1999 draft when the Bengals decided to take him after he started 8 games at Oregon. They're like, oh, we have to get this guy as the greatest quarterback ever. And that was, that would draft you had Tim Couch at number 1, Donovan McNabb at number 2, and Achilles Smith at number 3. And you're like, that really didn't play out well for anyone except for the Eagles, of course.
I will not have you besmirch
I'm
the
saying- I'm saying
you
You got the Browns and the Bengals drafting on just I don't know what, and then the Eagles took the guy that was actually a good.
No,
football player.
Tim Couch was a player.
A
In
player-
college.
a
I mean,
player-
he had film. They had the air raid. It was
played
a
at
popular
Kentucky.
thing. It was new. He
He-
threw for a ton of yards. He had a terrible. That was the first year back for the Browns. He had a terrible team, and he wasn't an athletic guy who was going to run around and make
that's
all
the
the
argument
plays.
people are making for Will Levis is that he doesn't have the weapons around him that C.J. Stroud does, but if you would put him on a like to like, that Will Levis could be a better player than C.J.
Well,
And what have they seen that would make them think that?
Like, why do they? I can't believe what I'm about to say. if James Franklin didn't see enough to like elevate Will Levis, and
the guy couldn't beat Sean Clifford.
He couldn't win the job at Penn State.
To be fair, Clifford did have a 10-year head start.
That's true.
Yes, a tremendous advantage and experience. But I remember them putting in Will Levis and seeing him make some plays against Ohio State, even
With his legs.
With his legs, yeah.
But that's fine. At least like Penn State still didn't think highly enough of that and his arm talent.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? We're gonna stick with Sean Clifford and the 3 picks a game, and we're gonna be good.
I don't. I saw this on Twitter the other day. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but like Will Levis's numbers versus G5 as opposed against Power 5 defenses, it's like playing a high school team and like playing an NFL team. Like it's unfathomable to me how much worse he could be against Power 5 defenses, and then people still regard him in this way. I don't get. Actually, Anthony Richardson, I almost understand it a little bit because he has like freaky athletic traits. He has a stronger arm than anyone in the draft, and he's going to run like a 4.4, and he's like 6'5", 240 pounds.
He's different.
I get that, but
like
Will
you
Levis,
can be enamored with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you become enamored with Will Levis.
But especially because you have the Georgia tape where he went 7 of 18 or something like that, something awful.
Yeah,
they scored 6 points, and then you have C.J. Stroud playing Georgia 3 weeks later, and you're like, I get it. Ohio State has Marvin Harrison, Kentucky doesn't, but. Regardless of that,
don't sell that game short. C.J. Stroud was a man out there,
but that's the excuse people will make is that he has a player to save him like Marvin Harrison and Will Levis. But at some point, if you in college football, especially if you are an elite quarterback, you elevate other people. And Will Levis, I don't think has elevated anyone in his career. And Anthony Richardson,
he elevated Sean Clifford.
From what I watched was Anthony Richardson. You see the physical traits, but it seemed like they were worse when he played. So I don't entirely get it.
Well, the thing with the NFL is that it's become such a quarterback league, right? Everybody needs to have that guy at the helm that can lead them or whatever, and it just makes these teams go out on a limb and say, all right, well, yeah, Anthony Richardson looks like Cam Newton, and he's big and strong and fast, and he's going to come in and take the league by storm. So if we miss, who in our division is going to pick him up? So everybody just feels like they have to be the one to go and do that. That I can understand. A big guy, fast, strong. You're going to say as a coach, I can teach him our offense. I can teach him to read the different defenses that he's going to need to see or that he's going to see or that sort of thing. But I have this huge guy who's going to overpower the league in his first year. I mean, Will I think he's a decent sized kid, right? He's
6'4",
he's probably my size when I came out. Yeah. Is he the 4'4"? He's not going to be the athlete. He might run fast straight line. I think I was like 4'6'7". I mean, I wasn't fast and jukey.
He'll be a 4'6" guy, and he's got a strong arm. I mean, there's a lot, but the tape, he's played a lot of tape against SEC defenses, and none of the time when you're watching it, you're going, wow, I'm super impressed by that guy.
And he couldn't make it against the Big Ten defenses.
And I think what's interesting, if you look at Anthony Richardson, is that this NFL draft specifically, there are a couple like teams that are up in the top 10 that have multiple picks that are good teams that you could see them saying, I just don't think a guy like Anthony Richardson is not a number 1 pick on a team that is bad because you're going to ruin him by the time you get a chance to take that.
Now on the flip side of that,
though, is he a number 1 pick for anybody? Like,
I mean,
well, would you? If you're
I got a couple units on a futures pick of him being number 1 pick that I put down about 2 months ago. So
that's good value. I
bet
on him to win the Heisman after their opener against Utah.
Yeah, did it a couple months ago.
I might as well just set like $50 on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't put 50 units on it, but I got a couple units on it being the number 1 pick. So I'm not rooting against it. That's all I'm saying.
Oh wow, our coverage is going to be wild this week.
We're just running around all the NFL.
With he's got units on all these guys.
He talks to no Ohio State people. I just want to get a scoop on who's number 1.
I mean, that's really the most important thing. But I mean, no, and then you look at Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, and you see the size and the arm strength, and then you see Bryce Young, who is the exact opposite. He's 5'10", and he throws the ball fine for a guy who's his size, of course, but he's not like a howitzer on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. But he plays football in a totally different way. And C.J. Stroud, I think, is sort of the combination of all those guys. And
that's an interesting way to put it.
And so, like, to me, that's why, I mean, Stroud, again, I know we're homers, whatever, but, like, he is the safest bet of these 4 quarterbacks. And so, to me, if you're trying to build a franchise in the NFL, you take the guy that is the safe bet, not.
Yeah, I think he has the highest floor. But I think it's when they get into the athletic traits of, like, a Richardson and probably even a Levis too. I think you think more about ceiling than floor, maybe. But I think CJ's got a pretty high ceiling in his own right, especially if he plays the way he played against Georgia. But if that's the thought process that you're erring more toward high ceiling than you are high floor, then I could see how CJ doesn't come out looking so great.
That's what trips me up about this whole argument, because every single box, I would say, outside of like dynamic athleticism, CJ Stroud is going to be either number 1 or number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about who's the most pro ready. Which one played with the former NFL offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and like had an elaborate more elaborate read-based system to operate, and not just one read throws like some of these other guys have. I'm not trying to disparage any of the others. I'm just saying if you go down the list, how is CJ Stroud not the ideal model for a team that needs to pick number 1 at quarterback?
I will say, I think I don't know who Florida's offensive coordinator was last year, but Bryce Young and Will Levis played for former NFL offensive coordinators.
All right, fine. You win.
Bill.
Gosh, why does he have to be here?
Yeah, I know.
Point out all these.
I just wanted to say before someone else in the comment section.
Okay, you
Fair.
got to. Well,
But otherwise, I agree with you.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that CJ's. I hope anyway that he can end a lot of this insanity, because 2 years ago we had to do the exact same thing with Justin Fields, and I thought it was bizarre the way that Zach Wilson was elevated to number 2. It made no sense, and then people just didn't question it. They're like, "Did you see him in those shorts?
that
Like,
throw?
like, put him in an NFL offense and just let him go to work." I'm like,
That's the problem. He got put on the Jets.
Do you think that the results would have been any
I do.
different?
I think that you have a guy like
The Jets
that.
were like
The Jets
pretty
have
good
a
last
really
I think
good
you
team.
have a guy like that. Yeah, but last year didn't count. I'm talking about his rookie year, where the opinion is formed then.
Yeah, but he
The
got a chance
opinion
last
was
year, and he
formed
stunk.
last year. When
He
was
is a
absolutely
player
awful.
that if you give him 2 or 3 years to develop in a system where you have a coach that is a quarterback savvy guy like a Mike McDaniels or someone like that, then maybe things are different. I just think that the problem with quarterbacks so often is that they are drafted on teams that are terrible, and then they are put into a position because there's all this draft capital put on them, and there's so much money being put into them because of ticket prices and this and that, that they get thrust into a position that they're not ready for mentally. Unless you're someone like Peyton Manning, who's a totally different mindset, it's hard to get adjusted in that time frame.
So you think that Justin Fields would have had the exact same struggles as Zach Wilson last year with the Jets?
Probably not.
No,
But
because his athleticism gets him out of trouble.
right, he saves himself.
But that
in a
was
lot of
supposed
things.
to be the great differentiator
Now,
for Zach Wilson.
But Justin Fields' offense is terrible. So if you would have put him on a team that had talent like the Jets have around him, I think they're in the playoff. The Jets would have made the playoffs with Mike White starting all their games last year, but they kept trying to put Zach Wilson in because they were like, well, we paid him this much money, we better play him, and that was what caused them their. They would have made the playoff with Joe Flacco or Mike White at quarterback, but they kept playing Zach Wilson because they have to. And I think if you get put in a position where you have to play a kid who is not ready, you are going to ruin him, especially in a city like New York. But that's irrelevant when it comes to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, you're talking, I mean, if Indianapolis moves up to number 1.
Yeah, he could end up in a really advantageous spot.
Indianapolis, Atlanta, there's weapons around. I mean, if
Carolina, I don't think it'd be terrible.
yeah, there's a lot of good options here with teams that are just needing a quarterback, but I don't think that you want to be put into a position where you have to be the starter as a rookie. That's bad juju.
Well, they did the exact same thing. Zach Wilson, then they elevated Trey Lance up above Justin Fields, and I just
wasn't Justin not able to read a defense, or
that was the claim.
if his first receiver wasn't open?
Didn't have a work ethic.
Yeah.
Somehow became a storyline as well.
Is there some Ohio State hate in that from across the country? I mean, when you see it year in and year out, I mean, if it's going to happen to CJ again, I mean, the kid was a 2-time Heisman, finalist. Threw for all kinds of yards, all kinds of touchdowns. I mean, it has been crazy.
It is
Good
weird
here.
that the quarterback success at Ohio State is being held against them as they move into the NFL, where for 25 years previous, it was Ohio State has no quarterback success.
Mm-hmm.
They can't put a quarterback in the NFL. Now you put a first-round pick in the NFL every year, and it's like, well, they're only good because they played at Ohio State. Like that,
Yeah.
it's sort of weird and backwards. Clearly, Dwayne Haskins didn't develop the way that people wanted him to in his first 2 years in the league. Justin Fields, who was, getting MVP votes last year for Pete's sake on a terrible team.
I put some units on him to win MVP next year.
Did you?
Just a little sprinkle.
Smart.
Yeah, just
Smart.
a little sprinkle.
Did you put more units on Justin or Jalen Hurts?
I didn't put any on Jalen Hurts.
What's a unit?
Yeah, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
No, you just
A
can't.
unit can be anything that you want it to be.
You decide.
You decide your own gambling unit.
So if I want to bet like $5, that's a unit.
If that's
Yeah.
one, if that's
So
be
multiple
that's your
units
standard-
would be like $10.
if that's your unit,
If your standard unit of operation,
Is that
it's fine.
is that how they do
That's-
it?
that's
Are
how
we
we
units?
That's how we like to talk.
that's
Okay.
how we do it.
Yeah, but
I'm
our
learning.
units are dollars.
Well,
We're very low. Yeah.
$1.
Some people's units are.
so it
like
just makes it sound
1,000.
better. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I got some units on it. I'm like, how much? 50 cents.
How confident are you?
I'm going by quarters here.
I got 5 units.
I gotcha.
How
Okay.
confident? Oh, half a unit.
I'm learning.
That way, people can put it in their own.
I just downloaded the FanDuel app
Just now,
before the Super Bowl. That was the first time I used the betting in Ohio.
Jay-Z missing out on all the bonus bets.
That's right.
Welcome to Ohio.
I did.
Okay.
I don't think I got any free money either.
I guess we need to refer him to some of the.
Well, maybe
some
somebody
of
else.
the
Yeah,
others.
I should have asked you guys.
Shouldn't say them by name. until
No,
they
sorry.
pay us
Yeah,
for
my
it.
bad. Yeah, I should have asked.
Yeah, we're up for sale, by the way. So just go ahead and make those offers.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not optimistic. I guess it'll happen. Like CJ deciding to throw this week, I think, is important and valuable because I think he'll put on a show. Simply standing next to a tape measure, I think, is significant. There was a couple of months ago draft evaluators saying, "Well, CJ and Bryce Young are both, undersized quarterbacks," and I'm like, "What?"
That's somebody who had never seen
That
CJ
made me
Stroud.
so angry. Not only it wasn't a draft evaluator, it was a college football alleged
Analyst.
expert
Yeah.
who said, "I've stood next to both of them. They're undersized," and I wanted to reach through my radio and punch him in the face.
Was that person 7 feet tall? Or
Who
what?
was
I
that
don't know.
person? Do you recall?
Yeah, but yeah.
How tall was that person?
I actually don't know. I've never stood next to him.
Tell
so
us his
I
name and I'll
wouldn't
tell you
dare
how
make
tall
the
he is.
claim. Just someone who pretends to know everything. And it's okay to say I don't know.
CJ is almost 6'4".
Yeah.
He's a pretty solid, almost 230 pounds. He's not going to look like Anthony Richardson, but few people do. And
Carb of beef, that guy.
yeah, I mean, he's carved up.
They goose him a little bit.
That dude's carved up.
Slab of beef.
What is CJ going to run?
That's why I don't know.
4.7?
4.7, somewhere around
Somewhere.
there. Probably better than
Probably a
people think.
4. I bet he's in the 4.6s at least.
And that's what I was getting at, Jay-Z. Like
Who
he's going to measure. I think he's going to run well and show enough athleticism that people are like, oh, well, we just thought he couldn't move or do anything with his feet. Again, probably not watching what happened in the Georgia game, just evaluating on stats. But
I think that's one big thing, though, is that for 2 years, we watched him play. Now, he was great. Sat in the pocket, delivered the ball, amazing. We're always like, we want that extra, right? Everybody wants to see the quarterback go make the plays. Patrick Mahomes, it's so awesome running around. He finally did that in one game, and it's like, holy smokes. Like, if he'd have done that 2 years, he'd have been a 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, in my opinion.
Sure would have.
I really believe that because, he looked – I don't want to say he looked like a different quarterback in that Georgia game, but he looked like a different quarterback in that Georgia game. He was making plays. He was, using his feet, getting out of trouble, keeping the play alive, getting to the sideline, finding receiver. It was amazing. And so I think if he would have just done that a little bit more, I don't think you'd have this, well, Bryce Young has done this for 2 seasons in the SEC, fighting through injury. He's more of a playmaker. Like, I think it's just because we didn't see CJ do it a ton.
Yeah, and I think when you don't do that, you miss the Heisman moments and that sort of stuff that
100%.
kind of you get from just the scramble drill. Like, it's cool to watch a ball be thrown perfectly 45 yards down the field, but it doesn't change.
No, 100%. It's not exciting.
Cool.
I think it's cool, but like,
No, I'm not saying he didn't do a good job at that,
it's
but
cooler
it's just
if you're in the pocket and you
Yes.
stand on your head and you
Yeah.
do a little
Exactly.
somersault.
throw behind your back
Right.
or,
You
whatever.
have to switch to your left hand.
Yeah.
I think you're ruled down if you're on your head. I'm not sure that's legal.
That's actually, I don't know about that.
Anything goes.
Yeah, not in the XFL.
Those XFL games, by the way,
Super
are
entertaining.
straight up horrible.
Oh, come on.
Holy smokes! We wagered some units on Saturday night after we were done golfing on the who was it? Vegas and
Just make up a. Just make up a
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah.
No,
Nobody's going to know.
I'm
Albuquerque.
going to be honest. I've watched about 4 minutes.
Vegas
of,
and DC.
4 minutes of an XFL game in the first 2 weeks, and I thought it was okay. What was your major complaint? Because I want to invite Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson onto this show
Hey.
to speak to Austin in person
I
about
gotta-
what he doesn't
you guys
like about
cut
it.
I wanted to like it. I want there to be football. So we watched the entirety of this game.
I watched a lot of XFL.
On a Saturday night on vacation.
Well,
On a golf vacation.
Really,
They're tired after a long day.
You guys are really carving it up.
looking for their ball.
Carved up.
what did you want me to do?
I don't know. Hunker down.
Hunker down. That's what we did. I had a stack of Jello shots this high.
Yeah, and a one chip. And a one chip challenge.
That was the night before. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Remember when you make fun of me for eating spicy food?
Did you cry?
Sometimes my eyes sweat.
Or did they sweat? Yeah.
Oh, Berm just volunteered to do the one chip
Yeah,
challenge.
that's what I heard.
Wow.
That's what I heard.
Shite about
Stay
the
tuned for the second part of the show. When
What?
I don't give a shite about the one chip challenge. Number one, I don't want to chip.
You'll give a
Are
lot
you
of
scared?
them.
I don't need a
promise you.
chip to prove my manliness to you. All right, I do.
You
it
were
every
just
day.
trying to do that.
No, I wasn't.
Remember when he was making
Just
fun
saying
of me
because
for eating
I want
spicy
you to
chips?
understand that it's okay to sweat a little when you eat. That's all.
Buddy,
I like that.
Doesn't mean you're weak.
buddy.
Was it that bad?
Was it that
I
bad?
just don't like the idea of one giant chip. Like I think it's weird.
I thought it was a normal
It's not
size
giant.
chip.
It's a normal size chip.
Packs a big punch.
We should probably talk about football.
I was gonna tell you how I felt about the XFL, and then you decided.
But the Rock
Decided to take a shot at him for sweating.
Without Dwayne the Rock Johnson here to intimidate you, I don't really want to.
This game was being played in a minor league baseball stadium.
Yeah, that was a rough one. They had to spray paint the field green.
Yeah, there were tire tracks all over it for some reason. Nobody knows why. There was one touchdown in the first however many, 6-0 with 2 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Defensive state.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a
It
Allegiant
wasn't
Stadium.
defensive.
Sounds like the under was the play.
The under was a smash. 34.5 they had. I know because they did embrace.
They leave it on the
They
screen.
leave it on the screen for you, which is wonderful. What do we get? 18-6 final we got in this game. Both kickers slipped and fell down. One on a kickoff, which became a penalty because you're supposed to land your kickoff between the goal line and the 20 for some reason. He fell down in the rain.
But you have to because everybody else is up by the 20-yard line.
Because
Is
they're
it?
encouraging violent tackling on the
No, they're
kickoff?
trying to remove it.
No, they're removing it.
So you just go block without a running start.
Yeah, they start
Oh.
at like the 30-yard line.
I thought if you just kick it in the end
And
zone,
then they
you'd
have
get
to-
less.
You're not allowed to kick it to the end zone.
They have to wait for the guy to catch it before they can
You're
go
also
to try
allowed
and
to try
tackle.
3-point conversions, right?
You are.
So
Yes.
it makes me wonder about what we've talked a lot college football, trying to change rules, and we haven't talked about it, but it's being bantered about. Like, do you think that that's a rule college football should implement? 3-point conversions?
3-point play? Nah.
Not really.
You know what I do like?
I like the fourth and
The onside kick.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Fourth and
Oh,
15.
fourth and 15.
Yeah,
I do
that's a
like
cool
that.
idea.
I don't know what that is.
It's instead of an onside kick, you basically get the ball on offense on the 25-yard line or something along those lines. On your 25, 4th and 15, you get it, you get the ball, and you keep driving.
I can dig it.
Yeah, I like that a
I
lot.
like it.
I think it's the only rule of the XFL that I would want adopted.
I also like the replay. They're showing you, letting you listen to the guys talking about what's going on and how they're making their,
Deanie B up there.
yeah.
Deanie
I like that. I like to see what they're talking about. So I
They're
can,
doing it live. They didn't have to stop the game live for that.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of play was
Well,
atrocious.
that's what you're gonna. I mean, it's the first
How
year.
many Buckeyes in the XFL? Just one?
Antoine Jackson
Antoine
was the
Jackson,
only
right?
one that I believe. Rod Smith was playing for either DC or Vegas, but I don't think that they necessarily claim him
Why
on
not
the
both?
alumni roster.
I think that's
They
probably what
could. I
should
think
do.
they all train out of the same area.
They
don't
should
they?
just every game should have like 2 or 3 guys who are on both teams, right? And like if someone gets hurt, you need a like if you're like,
jeez.
I need a
It's not
I need
that
a wide
bad.
receiver on this play. Like you just be like, we got that one.
AJ McCarron gave up money in the NFL to go play in the XFL.
There were
He just loves living.
So
in St.
his
Louis.
boys.
you could.
Could
The
watch him
interesting
play.
part was like there are a lot of not a lot, multiple NFL wide receivers, former like you'd recognize like Martavis Bryant, Geronimo Allison,
Josh
like,
Gordon.
like guys out there that you recognize, but it seems to be only at wide receiver. I don't know why. And the quarterbacks in this league are just
They're learning.
having fun.
They're on the way to getting.
There are a
better.
bunch of first-round picks who were forced to play too early, and now we're
Yeah.
terrible.
Yes, there you go.
Think about AJ McCarron. Like was this close to
The
winning
Browns
a
almost
Bengals
gave up like a
playoff game.
first-round pick to get him.
He was this
when-
close to winning a Bengals playoff game in 2015 if guys didn't do dumb things. Whatever.
I mean,
Let's go back to CJ Stroud and talk about
He's
him.
going to be better than those quarterbacks
How
that we
many
watched
units?
on Saturday.
How many units collectively would we place on CJ being the number one player picked in this draft?
I'd put a lot of units on it.
I think he's going to go number one after this week. I'd put 10 units on it.
I would put a few. I wouldn't be super confident because I think it's going to be Bryce Young still, but or I guess it could be Jalen Carter, but I'd put some.
Yeah, I mean the Bears are going to trade that pick. So
I would hope so.
No, we're saying first quarterback, right?
no, I mean number
Or
one
no, number one pick?
because the Bears
Well,
are going to.
I
trade
mean,
the
a lot
pick.
can happen.
I guess the Bears could keep it and take Jalen Carter, but that'd be stupid. So
I agree. I think it's I think it is very much on the table. To Austin's point, that people fall in love with CJ this week.
especially someone like Jim Irsay, who
who likes him a big old quarterback.
and likes to mix things up a little bit, likes to shake it up.
Mm-hmm.
Plus,
I don't
CJ
think
in
it's
a dome-
shaking it up that
CJ
much.
in a dome is the way to go.
That's what you said it, Jay-Z. I think he's the safest.
I think
of
I
the
agree
bunch.
with you.
Like,
Yeah.
That's not shaking it up.
I think
Shaking
people
it
fall
up
in love
would
with
be-
Bryce Young because he's Alabama and it's Nick Saban and all that.
Yeah.
But I also think you see Tua down in Miami getting the crap kicked out of him. He can't make it through a full season. I think this guy is about the same size, maybe even smaller.
smaller.
Yeah,
See,
maybe
See,
even
that's the
smaller.
argument. Like,
So it's like,
doesn't-
is he
doesn't
going to
get hit,
survive?
but, like, he hasn't played in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like the NFL,
He
they
will.
hit you. I know you're not allowed to really hit a quarterback anymore, but you still get hit.
No, he's a tough kid.
Much
He fought through
different.
injury last year. He had a shoulder, a little separated shoulder or something like that.
AC
Fought
joint,
through it.
yeah.
So good on him. I think he's a great kid. I think he is a great player. I just think if I'm an NFL guy, I'm saying I don't want to take this little dude. I want to take somebody from the Big Ten who's normal size quarterback, sits in the pocket, wants to throw the ball.
Full sized.
The only reason
Full size, yeah, it's not full size.
The only reason I can see Indianapolis taking Bryce over CJ, assuming that they're the team that moves into number one, which I'm pretty confident they will
I think
be,
it will be them. Yeah.
is that they have a fairly good offensive line, right? So they're established. And I think the real risk you take with a guy like Bryce is if you put him behind an offensive line like Joe Burrow got put behind in 2020, when you're like, we don't know if we can protect you. Indianapolis has a good group. So I think
Didn't they give up like 90-some sacks or something?
Yeah,
last year, Bill?
but they
that's
have
because they had Matt
good,
Ryan at
They
quarterback.
have good personnel. They played poorly last year, but like man to man, it's a good.
Well, I mean,
should
they
be a good
had a
offensive line.
great coach over there last year.
Yeah, I mean, they were
coaching
obviously
them.
they were
Yeah,
obviously
they
a
should have let
disaster.
Jeff
Yeah.
Saturday play.
Yeah, it would have been
They
better.
were obviously a disaster for a lot of reasons, but they have dudes up front that
They
are
do,
like
yeah.
Oh, that
solid
Nelson
players.
cat is legit, right?
So I think that you could see them maybe be more willing to take the 5'10" quarterback who's 170 pounds than
It would just
other
fly in the face of everything they've ever done with that position.
Yeah.
Like Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay have a type, and
Yeah.
Bryce Young ain't it.
Mhm.
But they desperately need to get off the quarterback merry-go-round. And I think the safer choice, I hate to call CJ that because it seems to suggest that he's not as good as the other guys.
right. He's not
No,
a
he-
game manager.
But he
he's
is.
dynamic,
But he is the
right.
safest choice in addition to being very talented. It just makes too much sense for me. And if
Well, and
you-
he's very popular in this area. I mean,
Yeah,
you're bringing a
man.
kid from Columbus right across state
Irsay's
lines.
loved
I mean,
Buckeyes on his team in the last decade or so.
they're ready. Like I think for as bad as they were last year too, like that is to step into that offense with a decent offensive line, good weapons, a head coach who was really good with Justin Herbert, really good with Jalen Hurts. I don't know. I think CJ can hit the ground running there if he went to the Colts.
Put your units on CJ Stroud.
That's the official recommendation from Roosters in the Horseshoe Lounge. Appetizer Thursday, by the way.
Onion petals.
Shake
petals
your
or feathers or
feathers.
whatever you want to call them. Not sure. That doesn't matter. We're going to take a quick break. I'll probably eat a couple more appetizers on an Appetizer Tuesday, and we'll be right back in here in a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They will always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. And just going to keep talking about quarterback play. Because why not? So
got a big quarterback competition going on in Columbus.
Not that
No,
one.
not that one.
No,
Okay,
we're not going to do that
okay,
again, Jay-Z.
okay.
You don't have to worry about that.
Gosh, thank you.
I was just trying to worry you that.
Well,
I don't know if Berm didn't.
Berm loves to bring me down. He's just that kind of guy.
I just believe in open dialogue.
People did love the conversation. I think that.
Yeah.
Come on, let's
Get on in here. There
for
we
it.
go.
The real star of the show is back.
Yes.
She doesn't work Mondays anymore, so
Thank you.
thank you. I was thinking about it because of this crazy birthday and how long now I've been in Columbus. Let's think about you had to take one quarterback because C.J. Stroud's career is done. We've had this legacy conversation. One Ohio State quarterback from the last decade to win you one game. Who is taking the snap for you?
Who's the game against?
Yeah. Rutgers.
Tate Martell.
Taking Tate Martell? Wow, I didn't see where that was going.
Oh, goodness.
One big game. Not Rutgers.
A college football playoff game.
A college football playoff game, a national championship game. That is funny that you took the question that way. Like everybody said, you have to win one game. They never specify.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, who's it
You got to beat the Jaguars. Okay.
And I also want to know, because I can't ever just dive into a conversation without being a nitpicking a-hole.
Okay.
Are we talking about with whatever
More stipulation?
whatever
Great.
group,
Glad I
whatever
asked this
receivers
question.
we
Yeah.
want? I mean, is it their receivers?
Totally
at the
regretting
time?
this.
Is it their roster? Like, how do we determine? Like, do we assume it's the best Ohio State roster, and then we just pick whatever?
An average Ohio State roster is very good.
Right, but like, do we?
Does your answer
I mean, you
got
gotta think for the last. Yeah, I mean,
does it really? That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it does, because I mean,
well, I think the difference would be the offensive play calling. From if you go back to 13, 14, it might be a little different than it is.
Am I getting Tom
today.
Herman or Ed Warren?
Yeah, that's. I mean,
or Ryan Day,
Or Ryan
What are
Day.
we
You
getting here?
you are the head coach. You have an average, above average talented roster for Ohio.
well, if you think
A
from
standard,
13 on, we've had really good players.
a squad that meets the standard is the standard specifications. You are calling the plays. You are evaluating all of the Ohio State quarterbacks from the last decade. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's spend 10 more minutes.
What's the weather
Setting
like?
the ground rules.
What's
Is
the
this
what's the
indoor or
weather like?
outdoor?
Is it indoor or outdoor?
Thank you for joining us in the Horseshoe Lounge. It's been a great show.
The answer was just on the television, and it's Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I was going to say Andy Reid. What? Oh.
I mean, Justin Fields is the best combination
Yeah.
of every skill set that you could want. He's extremely competitive. He's big. He's fast. He has an arm that can make any throw. He is not reckless with the football. Like, it's pretty clear to me that
I
Justin.
don't think we've had any quarterback in the last decade who's been reckless with the football. I agree with you. Justin was going to be my answer, but you can't really go. You can't. There's no wrong answer here. They're all amazing. I mean, they're all going to be first round picks.
Yeah, I mean,
well, at
like,
least the last three.
If I need someone to get a 4th and 1, I'm taking JT Barrett
Barrett, yeah.
because he will kill himself to get it.
Yeah, but you're not going to call that play if you're the coach.
But Justin Fields would do the same thing. And I mean, we saw Justin was as tough as any quarterback we've ever seen. It's not really, and I'm actually surprised in my mind how wide the gap is between what Justin was capable of doing at his best versus anyone else.
Would you give any consideration to Braxton?
No.
See, I didn't cover. I ended up not covering Braxton at all, but I wasn't like paying super close attention either in like 2011 through 2013. Just sort of like on the periphery as a normal college football fan. I wonder how much this conversation changes if Braxton had that 2014 season to continue to grow as a quarterback, or maybe what he was before that is just what he would have been that year, which was super dynamic. But
He would have been more of that.
Yeah.
Under that offense with Urban Meyer and Tom Herman, in my opinion. I just Braxton Miller's ability to throw the ball was never in the same conversation as Dwayne Haskins or Justin Fields or Cardale Jones or C.J. Stroud. I mean, he was obviously probably the most dynamic athlete of the group. I mean, if you put him and Justin side by side, I mean, that's a fun thing to think about.
He was pretty awesome.
But Justin can do a lot. Justin's faster than Braxton, straight up
Straight line.
fast.
Yeah.
And he's 6'3", 230 pounds.
He's just a man.
Braxton wasn't small by any stretch, but like I don't think it's the only guy that I would even consider putting into that conversation if we extend it out is Troy Smith when Troy's at his best, because Troy could throw a ball through a brick wall, and he wasn't like speed burner fast, but he was never easy to hit in the pocket, and he could move around and always had his eyes downfield. Troy at his best is the only guy that I would put in that conversation.
Yeah,
Justin.
I think it's for me. It's Justin with a pretty wide gap too. I know. I would consider CJ. I think I actually probably have CJ second on that list. Again, part of that is I not having the personal experience of watching like peak Braxton. But I would take CJ over JT as a talking pure quarterback, and I would take him over Dwayne as well.
I felt like Jay-Z alluded to this earlier, like the fully formed version that played against Georgia.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, like, makes that a much more
It is
compelling
enticing.
If you saw that more often in his career at Ohio State, it makes it a little bit harder of a choice, in my opinion. But what Justin did, I mean, he was pretty special when his couple years here.
Yeah, I think the 2014 version before the injury of JT Barrett merits some sort of special consideration because he seemed, I don't know why, his passing skills seemed to take a dip the further he got into his career, with the one notable exception being the remarkable fourth quarter against Penn State in 2017, but he was throwing some accurate footballs. He was racking up a ton of yardage. He was still doing the same stuff with his legs. He was unstoppable.
He's a winner, man. The kid was a winner, yeah.
That was a pretty special season. That was why he had Ohio State in position to get where it did in the postseason, why he was earning Heisman Trophy votes. I never quite got that back. I'm not saying it was an injury or anything like that. It could have been just the way that they handled the quarterback spot after that, because 2015 wasn't great for the development of either of those guys. But I think sometimes JT doesn't get enough credit in that conversation for what he did for so long.
He was awesome that year. Yeah, I can't remember because it was so long ago now. Like, there was a lot of conversation about could JT have won them a national title in 2014. But was all that applied retroactively? I can't remember. Were we talking about that during the season? Like, is this guy good enough? Because I remember being like wowed sometimes the way he played that year before he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. Like, he's not going to be good enough for them to beat Alabama. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason for that, Bill, is like in the middle of October, there's a lot of revisionist history about that team, which is one is that they were consistently getting better week after week and then peaked at the right time. And I don't agree with that. There were some struggles even in November that people tend to forget about. So I think that nobody was even having that conversation because they were like, Ohio State's not even going to be in the playoffs. Like, they didn't believe that they had a path back into it until it actually arrived, late in that month. So, or even until they were in Indianapolis and Cardale was slicing up Wisconsin. So I don't remember that conversation happening much.
Yeah, I mean, JT 2014 at Michigan State is like a top probably 3 or 4 quarterback game in my time covering. That was my first season covering Ohio State, and there's probably 2 or 3 or 4 games I'd put above that in terms of individual quarterback performances.
If you go back and watch that game, you will see him make throws that you didn't see the rest of his career as Austin.
Yeah.
And that is weird because it just like they stopped giving him the chance to do that in a lot of ways. And I don't know why when the offense was extremely dynamic.
Was that third and long? Was that Devin Smith?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a couple throws. I mean, he had the slant to Michael Thomas right before half, the 75-yard. I mean, that was a dart. Mm-hmm. And then you have the over the shoulder when you're talking about Devin Smith. Like, JT is probably the best leader I've seen at Ohio State at quarterback or any other position. So it's hard to remove him. If I'm ranking them in the last decade, JT would be my second one. With Dwayne,
that's fair. Yeah.
With Dwayne, probably third because he was just such arm talent was crazy. And I'd probably put CJ fourth.
I was wondering if Burn would cheat and put Joe Burrow in there.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking spring?
Are we allowed
football?
He got on the field.
Are we allowed to talk about spring football?
He got on the field. Tathan got on the field.
You got to win one spring game.
I mean, give me Kenny Guyton. I mean, the way that
hey,
gonna win a spring game. Give me Matthew Baldwin, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
It is crazy to think about how many good quarterbacks there's been in the last decade plus, and I mean, the change at quarterback obviously goes to Terrell Pryor. Really, as far as the changing of the style goes, I mean, Troy was athletic, but not. You're athletic too.
Jay-Z said he was going to run 4.67, so they could have run that off.
Yeah, I mean, but Terrell was when things went. Well, hey, let's just let the quarterback run the ball because number one, he couldn't throw it. Number two, he was 6'6" and 200.
Huge.
And when has there ever been a quarterback at Ohio State that looked more awkward throwing the ball than Terrell Pryor? It was weird.
It wasn't.
But
somebody famously got a passing chart at Nebraska.
He won a Rose Bowl. I mean, Bowserman
it didn't look that bad. It didn't look the end product wasn't very.
All right, fair enough.
It didn't look that bad. I mean, it's been an interesting couple decades at the position, but it's on such a path now that you just don't. I don't know that it can get higher. Like what's expected of the next guy, and that's maybe a conversation.
That's what makes the
standard
is very difficult.
Maybe that's a conversation for another show. But like, the standard is the standard, and I get it. But at some juncture, the standard is so ridiculous that there's no way people can live up to it. And when you look at Kyle McCord and Devin Brown heading into this year, like, are they walking into an unwinnable situation in the eyes of fans because you've had this run?
Not if they beat Michigan, no.
but I mean, probably.
Yes, I mean that first interception in the first game is going to be like
ask C.J. Stroud what the first month of his
career
was like.
Before, people were calling for him to be
Justin
benched.
Fields. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. I think I wouldn't want to be in that spot. It's so much weight on their shoulders.
Not much fun.
Jay-Z, you've talked about that before. But that's even more so now.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you just the quarterback at Ohio State, which is one of the most important positions in all of college football, but now you're having to do it on the heels of JT, Dwayne, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, every single one of them getting Heisman Trophy votes or winding up in New York.
And you have all these guys around you too, so it's like, well, you better just go in and be good because
it takes
CJ Stroud was, and he had these weapons, so you should just step in right where he was.
Here's an interesting question: is it harder to walk into the situation you and Troy had to walk into, following a guy who was not? I mean, Craig Krenzel was certainly not the most talented quarterback at Ohio State in the last 30 years, but he won a national championship. He beat Michigan twice, including in a game in 2001 where people are like, he has no business being in this game, let alone winning it. Or is it easier to follow a guy like CJ who didn't beat Michigan, but he was so great other times that but now the expectation of the position is so high that it's almost unfair.
Well, I think a lot of that comes down to what do you have around you. Because when Troy and I
you guys
back in 04, we lost
Ted Ginn, Anthony Gonzalez. There were no good receivers on your team. That's true.
He said 2004.
In 2004, we were all just sophomores, and we had lost 12 guys to the draft from the year before, so we were all just brand new players out there. If you're telling me I was going to step in with Michael Jenkins and Drew Carter and the starters from the year before who were amazing.
Did Drew Carter have a nickname? Was he like the soul? I mean, what was his nickname? Soul and Streak or something like that?
What?
I don't know.
I don't know, but he was really fast.
He was super fast.
Was he going to call him the Sultan or something?
No, Solon.
Anyways, Chris Gamble. I mean, if you tell me we have all those guys back on offense with an offensive line and a running back, if you tell me Maurice Claret was my running back in 04, it might change things a little bit more for the quarterbacks coming in to play in that position. So it's different, I guess. I don't know that. And I'll just say that there might not have been that expectation from great quarterback play.
Yeah.
But I had expectation because I was this big-time recruit coming in, so I was supposed to be, all this and that and the other. And, just when you don't have – we did have a great team by the end of that year. We had gelled, we had grown, and we, won the Alamo Bowl. When they beat Michigan, we were on a trajectory going up, and we ended up having a really great team. And we had a great class. But we were all just so young in 04, and it was our first times playing for the most part for a lot of us. So it's just different. These guys are stepping into – they're going to have 3 new offensive linemen, so that's something to think about. But you have 3 starters in the backfield. You have 6 starters on wide out. Like you have so much to work with.
Who was your favorite receiver to throw to?
Santonio Holmes.
Good choice. Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
He was good.
Yeah, he was really good.
What made him your favorite?
He was just smooth, man. He just knew how to run routes, how to set people up. I think it was in 04, that Michigan game. This little slant move down on the goal. I mean, he was nice.
Remember he got called for taunting, diving into the end zone in that game?
Nah.
Dude, there is a...
I don't remember that, but good for him. He was diving in the end zone.
It's like a slant, right?
Yeah.
It's like a slant, okay? He catches it and is diving between 2 Michigan players.
Oh, I do remember that.
And got called for taunting.
Like just trying to score?
Yeah. It was whatever.
Yeah, he was pretty... I mean, not to say that. I mean, Gonzo was awesome.
I mean, he probably taunted, but
Teddy
probably
was
said something.
Amazing, but
Was
Santonio
Teddy too fast to throw to? Or just because he didn't catch it very well?
He caught the ball just fine.
But was he?
We did. We didn't really use him as a.
Berm's got all these.
We didn't really use him. I feel like as a burner a lot. We used him in that little my junior year. We'd put him in that little slot / backfield type thing and just get him the ball and let him just do his thing. A couple times, of course they let him go, but I mean, Santonio was pretty fast. I mean, we had some speed on that team, and Gonzo there in the middle in the slot. I mean, to your point, yes, we had.
That's a pretty good.
We had a really good class. I was just saying, in 04, it was just brand new to everybody. I mean, we had a defensive end who had practiced tackle for 2 weeks prior to our first game, and he started.
How'd that work out?
It didn't work out great. But I mean, that's just how we were putting things together at that point in time. So it's a little different for these guys this year. Now like I said, we'll be putting together a few offensive linemen, but everything else is just there ready to rock.
All right, well, that's the quarterback show as we get ready for the NFL Combine this week. And guess what? Next week is the start of spring ball. So on Monday, we will have a lot more to talk about Ohio State specific as 2023 really ramps up for the Buckeyes. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to get back out there to the Woody to see some practice and see what these Buckeyes look like. But until then, we hope you enjoyed this version on a Tuesday in the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. That's Jay-Z, Berm, and Bill. I am Austin. We'll see you next week.